Well, hello. This is Brad Neuenswander, Deputy Commissioner, State Department of Education, and I want to give everybody just kind of a brief update. We'll be doing a lot more updates as we go through this next few months on the Kansans Can Star Recognition Program. The whole purpose of this star recognition is we want to recognize school districts. This is not a building level recognition. This is a district level recognition where we want to recognize school districts in the areas that Kansas said were important for the success of each student. All of this is grounded in the tour that Dr. Watson and I and the state board members took a few years ago when Kansans clearly said, we need to balance how we measure success. So there's several areas that we will be giving recognition to school districts. Some of those are quantitative measures, which means those are ones that we can calculate here at the State Department. And then some of those are qualitative, where we really don't have the data here at the State Department, but school districts will apply for recognition, and I'll kind of get into those here in a minute. The first quantitative measure is, we call this prepared for high school graduation, and this is where we're going to be looking at what are those academic measures. Kansas said that students need to be academically prepared for high school graduation, so I'll talk a little bit about that one. We're also going to be looking at graduation rates itself, a recognition in that, and then post-secondary success. We've had a lot of energy over the last couple of years around our post-secondary success and effective rates, so we're ready to start recognizing some districts in that area. The qualitative measures that districts will be applying for will be social emotional growth, kindergarten readiness, individual plans of study, and then civic engagement. With the civic engagement, that one's a little unique because we're going to be using the current civic advocacy network. We have buildings right now that have applied and recognized for the civic advocacy network. Don Gifford and Jessica Noble lead that work. So for the district one, we'll be recognizing districts that have a certain percentage of their buildings that have received that recognition. So let's start with prepared for high school graduation. The first thing that we can use for this academic one is obviously the state assessment. So we'll be looking at the percent of students that are performing at levels 3 and 4. That means they're hitting that college readiness mark. You still have a lot of kids in that level 2 that are doing really good work relative to the standards at that grade level. But we're looking at what percent of the kids are at levels 3 and 4. For gold, that'll be if you have 75% of students at that level or above. Silver, 60 to 74.9%. Bronze, copper. Copper is state average up to 49%. So that is something that we can calculate here. And all of our star recognitions, I might want to add, we have a copper level, a bronze, a silver, and a gold. And the way we're using the state assessments is we'll combine at the district level all grades in all 3 assessed subjects, which is math, ELA, and science. We don't have history government right now because we're transitioning to a new assessment. So right now it's math, ELA, and science combined at the district level. The only precondition for this recognition is you have to meet 95% participation in all 3 assessments. That's normally not an issue because statewide we have anywhere from 99% average above. So in the future, now that we have more kids through a state contract taking ACT and work keys, not this year, but in the future, We'll also be able to add to this prepared for high school graduation ACT and work keys, but we're not there yet because we haven't had a large enough percent of our kids taking ACT and work keys. For graduation rates, again, our state goal is by the year 2026, we want to have 95% of students graduate in high school using the four-year adjusted cohort. Obviously, our ultimate goal is 100%, but we set our state goal at 95% because we know that there's a percent of students that need their age 19, age 20, age 21. We don't want school districts trying to graduate them early. So we set our goal at 95% to take into consideration that you do have a small percent of your kids that need more than 4 years. But going with the copper, bronze, gold, or silver, gold, if your district has a 95% or above graduation rate, then they're gold. Silver is 93 to 94.9. You can see on here the different levels. Again, copper, you at least have to be at state average, which is currently about 87.5, up to 89.9. The precondition for graduation rates, though, is that your district 5-year post-secondary effective rate must be at or above what we would predict. You know, we have some districts that have 100% graduation rate, but a low percent of their kids have the skills or the desire to go on to some post-secondary success. So the precondition to receive the graduation is you have to at least be at the predictive range with your 5-year average post-secondary effective rate. If you have that, then you're going to receive the award on this. For post-secondary success, this is based on the district's 5-year average effective rate. So if you have from your 9th grade cohort going on and graduating, and then 2 years out, they're either still enrolled or they've completed, if you're averaging 70% and above, you're at the gold level. Silver is 60 to 69%. Bronze, copper, again, the copper starts at the state average up to 49.9. The precondition, again, to receive this is that your district must be at or above your local post-secondary predictive rate. Now, we allow for a negative 0.4 variance. You'll see this 0.4 throughout some of these. That comes from some of Hattie's work on effective rates. So if you're even below your predictive by 0.4, we leave some room for that. But you know, you might be at 52% effective rate, but if we predict that you, based on your risk factors, you should be higher than that, then you won't be recognized under this. You have to at least be at what we would predict or above for your 5-year average. Post-secondary commissioners awards. This is where we look at districts that, regardless of where their rate, their 5-year effective rate is, we do have some districts that are exceeding what we would predict based on those risk factors. Again, using some of Hattie's work, if you're 0.4 to 0.9 above what we would, the range we would predict, you're going to receive a commissioner's award because you're exceeding your risk factors. If you're 1 standard deviation to 1.9 above, then you get your district receives a commissioner's award with honors. And then if you're greater than 2 standard deviations above what we would predict based on your risk factors, then you're going to receive a commissioner's award with distinction. And just to kind of give you an example down here at the bottom, if for your district, based on your risk factors, your predictive rate should be somewhere between 31.7 to 35.4. And again, that's the percent of your ninth graders that graduate and 2 years out are either still enrolled in post-secondary or they've earned something. Then, and let's say this is an example of a district, and their actual 5-year effective rate is 39.3. That's 0.9 standard deviations above what we would predict. So they would receive an additional award for the Commissioner's Award. Again, I want to stress, you don't even have to be at the state average. If the state average is 48% and you've got a 5-year average effective rate of 36.5, if you're performing above what we would predict, you'll get recognized for the Commissioner's Award. For the qualitative board outcomes, these are the ones that you're going to have to apply for. Kindergarten readiness, again, our goal is to increase the percent of kindergarten students that are socially, emotionally, and academically ready for kindergarten. That's not something that we can just calculate like the quantitative ones here at the State Department. Social emotional growth, Kansans told us, that's important, but we want to measure that locally. We don't want to collect that and try to come up with some algorithm to award this. So there will be an application for that. Same with individual plans of study. Again, the board's goal is beginning no later than 8th grade. All students have an IPS that informs and guides their secondary and post-secondary plans. And then again, the civic engagement. Schools are already applying for that recognition. So what we'll look at is we will use that and to recognize at a state for the district level, it'll be based on what percent of your buildings are being recognized under civic engagement. For these qualitative ones, we will be putting out rubrics. Now, this is just kind of a draft kind of idea of what the rubric will look like. You'll have criteria down along the left-hand side. So for kindergarten readiness, there's certain sets of criteria that you will have that will describe what a high-quality early childhood program would look like within a school district. You're going to look at that criteria, and then you're going to just mark where do we believe we are relative to each one of those criteria. At the bottom of this, you'll see that if throughout this rubric I was averaging a score of 4 to 5, then that means that I would qualify for bronze recognition under kindergarten readiness. These rubrics are going to be a great tool for you to be able to say, well, what does it look like to have a quality social-emotional growth program in our school district? Each one of these will guide you through it. We will most likely not be doing the qualitative ones until next fall. We're going to spend our time working with school districts on these rubrics and what does it look like. We have draft rubrics right now. We're going to get out to some school districts to try to get some more input, but we will be recognizing upcoming districts from the copper to the gold level that have these types of things in place within their school district. So kind of give you an idea, kind of broad what this might look like across the state. There are going to be 7 different areas that a school district can receive recommendation, all relative to what Kansas said were important. 3 of these are quantitative, that we can start recognizing districts. 4 of them are qualitative, that districts will apply. I just kind of went through and described each one of these, but I think the important thing is, if I'm just a school district, what might it look like for our district? Well, I might be gold in a couple areas like social emotional and kindergarten readiness. I haven't done as much with individual plans of studies, but where we are with state assessments, ACT, work keys, I might be copper here, bronze here. Civic engagement, we haven't done a lot in that yet, and that's okay. But I might be receiving some recognition from the state with our graduation rates and post-secondary effective. So every district's going to look a little different. Everybody's at different places. But as a state, we're ready to start recognizing those districts that have already had a lot of good work in place. Again, we just want to recognize districts for what Kansan said. We value, it's important. Yes, we still need to have kids academically prepared, but we also want to put focus and attention on those other things at Kansan: social emotional, early childhood, kindergarten readiness programs, individual plans of study. How are we getting our kids civically engaged? Graduation rates, we've had them for years, but we've never really, recognized districts that are all already achieving at high levels. And then post-secondary effectiveness, those districts that already have kids, a lot of work going into coaching kids, mentoring through individual plans of study, kids going on to post-secondary success. So that's just kind of a 30,000-foot view of what we're trying to accomplish with this Kansan's CanStar recognition program. Our goal is around the annual conference time, we will start recognizing districts. You have enough information here to where you could look at your data and say, well, do we think that we might receive a bronze in this level or a gold in this level and some of the quantitative ones that we'll be ready to roll out this fall. If you have questions, again, you have my email address. You know how to contact me. We'll be out this fall trying to give more detailed information on the STAR recognition program. Again, we are excited to be partnering with you on this journey. We feel our role at the State Department is just try to leverage in every way we can to move forward what Kansan said that we want to accomplish in order to lead the world in the success of each student. Thanks, everybody.